Okay, so what is a superb way to warn people about the dangers of bomb testing and explosions and radiation poisoning and... Oh yeah, make a giant monster movie about it! Godzilla, the 1954 classic on the Crichton Collection Blu-ray and the old American version on DVD. I think the American version is on this too. I just wasn't able to find it yet. Now, this Godzilla is a 1954 Japanese horror film, I want to say. Mainly because something that actually happened in real life brought this movie out in the fictional world. Now, this film, believe it or not, was actually considered to be a warning. And no, it's not saying that a Tyrannosaurus/Stegosaurus hybrid is waiting at the bottom of the depths to come out and create destruction. And breathe atomic breath, because that's apparently what Tyrannosaurus Rexes and Stegosauruses do. Blame radiation. It sucks. Now, believe it or not, I actually watched a lot of Godzilla films when I was a kid. The first one I ever saw was, I think, Godzilla's Revenge, which is the 10th one, which is probably the worst one. And I remember I had this version on VHS, but with a different cover, with people running away from Godzilla and Raymond Burr looking at the front of the cover like, that's Godzilla. Much like the cover I have right up there. Now, for the longest time after I was a kid watching all these Godzilla films, I grew out of them because I thought they were way too silly. Way too silly? Really? This is coming from a guy who likes films like Sharknado, and believes that Sharknado and other films like it have redeeming qualities. And with that reason alone, I decided, hey, you know what? Since we're giving all these other films a chance, why not go back and give Godzilla a chance? I mean, all of them. Come on, it wasn't the remake that really sparked my interest. I've been thinking about going back into the Godzilla franchise for years. And I am not talking about 1 or 2 years waiting to see if I want to get back into the franchise. I'm talking like 5 or 6 years. I mean, it took me a lot to try to get back into the Godzilla franchise because there's so many other new films that came out. And I'm like, you know what, I'm really digging all these Sci-Fi Channel films like I always liked to watch when I was a kid. And Godzilla kind of underneath my radar. That's kind of funny considering that Godzilla is a 30 movie franchise that went underneath my radar that's about cheesy creature features. I've used a lot of you guys' time talking about why I didn't get back into the Godzilla franchise for a long time. Let's talk about the original Godzilla. Godzilla is a film with great miniature effects and a spectacular, extraordinary, moving soundtrack. Not only can I do the main theme song, not like good, but just like I can hum it in the correct order. But I can also make my eyes water when that choir of girls are singing that theme song is playing in the background. It also appears at the end of the movie where they're underwater. It's just a beautiful piece of music. I was very surprised that this movie came out in 1954. You're all probably like, yeah, the music is really good. But let's get back to the miniatures. So I will. The miniatures are fantastic. And also there's scenes where there's people stuck underneath rubble and they're holding each other and they're like, don't worry, you'll be with your family soon. Or don't worry, you'll be with your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your family, your grandmother, your grandfather soon. And it's just so sad. And there's also a scene that takes place inside the hospital where this little girl, I swear to God, she makes me shiver each time, not only from fear, but total pity. Because she looks at her dad, I don't know if it's her mother or father, but she looks down at him and then he dies and then they carry him away. She's crying. And that's just the most irritating cry. But when I say irritating, I don't mean like it's annoying, but I mean like it's really bothersome. Like it really gets to you. And actually, in the American version, that scene takes place first. And then in the Japanese version, it takes place like almost 3/4 of the way through the movie. There are a lot of facts about Godzilla, and here are some ones I found were pretty interesting, considering one of them to be the roar. And the roar was actually made from a glove sliding down a bass of a cello or a violin of some sort. And they probably enhanced it just a little bit, and they made it sound like the roar of Godzilla. Now, the roar that Godzilla gives, just picture this, bear with me, that You do not see Godzilla yet. You do not hear its footsteps. You don't feel the burn of its fire. But you hear its roar. And that roar fills the sky and pierces it with evil. Or just no remorse. As it stomps its way to you closer. And closer. And closer. Until it gets you. What, you thought I was going to try to scare you? That gag's getting kind of old! Wow, that was bad. That joke was so bad that it's almost as bad as when the actor was inside the Godzilla suit and he almost passed. I think he did pass out several times because of how hot it was inside that darn suit. Oh wait, that's another fact. Now, one of my favorite characters in this film is Dr. Serizawa, mainly because his character discovers a device that if you activate it underwater, it will destroy every living thing around it, mainly because it destroys all the oxygen atoms in the water, or so I've read, or heard, or moving on. It's an awesome way to destroy Godzilla, but I love the fact that he discovered it because his character doesn't want to use it because in the past he's been in war, and he's lost an eye in the war, and he knows what horrors could come if his device falls into the wrong hands, and there could be a whole new war because of it. And for that reason alone, I love his character because he knows that if anything goes wrong, then someone else finds out about this device and uses it to their advantage, and for the wrong reasons, it will destroy all of Tokyo and Japan, and it could be a horrible thing. So I love that he has to decide whether to use it or not, and he's so against it. He's like, I don't want to use this device, but I might just have to. Now I really love the fact that they don't show you what the device does right away. Instead, a girl named Amiko sees it for herself, and she's in total shock and horror. And you're wondering, when we see this device in action, what will we react to it and be like? And what does this device even do? And when you find out what it does, you're like, oh my god, that's devastating, and this could be bad. My other favorite character in this film is Professor Kiyoyami, mainly because his character doesn't want to see Godzilla destroyed. He also brings up great reasons why, and he also brings up great reasons about how we can't destroy him anyways. The reasons why is because it's a modern science miracle. It's like, wow, we have a giant dinosaur here. But that's one of his focus points. His other focus point is how come we can't destroy him? Because he's been through all sorts of radiation and nuclear fallout waste, and it's all like, yeah, he's practically been baptized in that shit, so how are you supposed to destroy him with other weapons that are less powerful than that bomb? As you can tell, I could go over this film for hours and hours, just because of how awesome it is. And even the ending, the line, there could always be another Godzilla out there. It's the perfect way to send off for a whole bunch more sequels to come. And also a whole bunch more sequels that I get to review. So, I'll stop it here. For the first one, that is. Overall, I give Godzilla not only the Japanese version, and not only the American version, but just everything about both of them together. A 5 out of 5. Solid. Some of you are probably wondering why I'm giving the American version a 5 out of 5. Well, even though it spits in America's face because it's basically calling us too dumb to comprehend or even stand a Japanese movie, I think that Raymond Burr makes up for it. He gives off one of these performances where, like, there's one scene where he's on the island and you hear Godzilla's footsteps coming closer and closer, and he's looking at the cop that he's working with, and he's like, holy shit, what is that? And also, he gives one of the most best lines in the movie, which is, now it seems Tokyo has no defense. And also one of the worst lines, when someone asks him, what's this monster story of yours? And he's like, well, it's big and horrible. It's gloriously cheesy. I am Brian Gatto, host of Horror Show Movie Reviews. Make sure to like my Facebook page in the description below, and to leave comments and subscribe.